Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Somebody here who has been studying, looking into some Judaism and whatnot. We are in this place, this beautiful, lovely place, notwithstanding, whatever weather's getting ready to cruise through tomorrow and the next day. But this place of Zman Simchatenu, this place of Sukkot, Zman Simchatenu being the time of our rejoicing. As a context to it, one of my teachers in rabbinical school once taught us that the reason that Hanukkah is 8 nights is probably because back when the rabbis were figuring out what Hanukkah should be, the model for the big party celebratory holiday was Sukkot. And so to signal to the people that this is also going to be a big celebration, 8 days. So it is a lovely and beautiful thing. What are you supposed to do during Sukkot? I mean, I know there's a handful of customs. There's lulav and etrog. Yes, Havila, go ahead.
A bunch of sacrifices.
Lots of sacrifices. Thank you. Havila is absolutely correct. They are 100% correct. Lots of sacrifices. We don't do as many of those sacrifices, granted. But you're not wrong. They're absolutely correct, particularly in its roots in the Torah. We have a lulav and etrog, which we take in the different directions. We have leshev basukah, a bracha for sitting down, which, again, I can't think of another bracha that is on sitting, but if anybody else does, let me know. Thank you. That was the one I was fishing for. What did she say? She said, achnasat orachim. Achnasat, the welcoming orachim of guests. What's that? Teacher's pet. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Achnasat orachim. So, what a concept it is. And I also want to express some gratitude also for the sisterhood for helping to welcome guests this evening. Gratitude for tomorrow. We will be welcoming more guests with our musical Havdalah and services. We're having Kiddush after our various services out in the Sukkah. But Achnasat Orachim, what is that about? What does it mean in the context of Sukkot? What is that really, what is it paging and telling us? Welcoming guests, all right. We'll take it just for its shot level. What are, friends, the Ushpizin? What's that? That's my question. But I appreciate you're asking it back in Hebrew, though, as well. What are the Ushpizin? Go ahead.
Isn't it like Moses, all the sages?
Okay, isn't it like all the sages? Ushpizin. Anybody else want to add to that a little bit? Visitors. Visitors who are sages and of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, like the matriarchs, largely Joseph, Moses, Aaron. But there is this idea that part of that welcoming of guests is welcoming in the Ushpizin, who are, and this kind of comes out of Kabbalah and out of mystical framework, but the idea of welcoming in not just the people on the street or whatever, but actually welcoming in the avot, the imahot, the matriarchs and patriarchs of Judaism from way, way back. That our welcoming is not just like calling up the neighbors, hey, do you have a place to be? But it's actually inviting a certain kind of Jewish legacy and story into that place. There is one other person who I think of a lot in those terms, who also does that weird mystical returning act throughout our time. August is nodding. Do you want to share?
It's Elijah.
It is Elijah. That's right. That's absolutely right. Elijah is the other one who makes this interesting mystical turning and returning to our people throughout every generation. The rabbis used to think about the Elijah story and talk about Elijah in the Talmud. So Elijah pops up in Tanakh for the first time in Hebrew Bible and does all kinds of cool stuff, and he's kind of a scary guy. And the rabbis kind of remake him into this kind and mystical figure who has the ability both to sort of see behind the curtain and see what's going on with God, but also to pop up to the Jewish people in surprising and sometimes unrecognizable ways, often to teach a certain kind of lesson. You're supposed to learn something often when Elijah makes an appearance and does his thing. Now, there are a lot of different pieces. There's a great one where a rabbi is calling somebody ugly, and then the person who is called ugly says, well, why don't you take it up with my creator then? And the rabbi says, oh, I was talking to Elijah. Doesn't realize it until that moment. But it's this idea that you learn a lesson somehow. That's from Talmud. I couldn't tell you the tractate off the top of my head, but it's a great one. So what are we supposed to learn from the Ushpizin then? The mystical guests, these avot, these patriarchs and matriarchs from the Torah who are supposed to visit our sukkah. It's not just enough to be welcoming you all or having people in or whatever. What's the point of that? Go ahead, Mary.
Well, there's several different sources that pair up the male and female Ushpizin and then give them mystical values that they represent and bring into the sukkah on each night, and it varies depends on source.
Okay, so Mary is correct. There are these interesting pieces in which we line up the different avot, imahot, the different matriarchs, patriarchs, that generation with different divine emanations within Kabbalah called sphirot, these aspects of God's self, attributes maybe. If you don't understand, it's okay. I don't fully either. That might be part of it. And there are all kinds of great valences about the ways in which we tie and connect some of the avot and imahot to the species in the lulav and etrog, the arba minim, to different qualities and characteristics within the Israelites themselves. But I'm going to offer one really, I'm going to step out of the mysticism. I'm not a great teacher of mysticism. I love Jewish mysticism. I love Kabbalah and Zohar and all of these texts. I'm not a good teacher of it. So I'm going to step out of that for just a second and suggest that there is a really basic level to these Ushpizin, which is the fact, the idea, the paradigm that to bring in Avram Avinu, Rachel Imenu, like to bring in these matriarchs and patriarchs. I mean, maybe there is literally a dude named Abraham walking in or somebody named Rachel, but if you're actually taking it seriously about inviting those people in from the Torah to your sukkah, you have to use a little bit of your, I would suggest, imagination. Requires you to think and to feel and to intuit a different way than Dave down the street coming in to say hi, whatever, in your sukkah does. And so I actually want to suggest that the idea of pairing achnasat orachim with imagination is a really powerful thing. And this goes back to one of these kindergarten lessons about, like, did you include everybody? Did you invite all of the kids to your bar bat mitzvah party or whatever? It's kind of a bummer when we have to have that conversation, but like it's a real thing. Like this idea of who it is that we include and we welcome and we make space for and we embrace within our community. Community is not always an easy thing, and like not necessarily everybody in community is easy, and yet this imperative about who it is that we welcome, that it's not enough just to do the intuitive, plain, automatic, and obvious inviting of your buddies, but that you actually have to use your imagination a little bit, and you have to stretch out differently to think about who could actually use that invitation, who could use that welcome, who may need a little bit of help to be brought into that space. It's a pretty big deal. I think it's a big enough deal that happens to be one of the first virtuous things that we are called upon to do after Yom Kippur, after all the Ashamnu, Bagadnu, all the terrible things that we have done, and now we're restarting the clock. First thing you're supposed to do, the first big virtue to lean out there with, right? Just welcoming other people. You don't have to broker a peace treaty. It's wonderful if you do. or some international landmine statute or whatever. I heard somebody did that with email one time. Like, that's cool. But even if you just start with welcoming other people in and using your imagination to push just a little bit further than what's obvious, and who needs a gracious welcome in this time, I want to suggest that's at least a piece that we can learn from our Ushpizin and from Sukkot and from Sukkah in this place. Shabbat Shalom.